Rugby World Cup 2019 is over, and South Africa are the emphatic winners in the final. It's 32 points to 12 for the Springboks. A couple of tries in the second half. A big battle of a first half, to be fair. It went back and forward, but over the course of the 80, the Springboks just too good and deserved winners over England. And this one, there was a lot of talk before this game. Have England played their final the week before? I think there'll be a fair bit of commentary about that in the media this week. But I'll go over some of the key points of the game, some of the key stats, and my thoughts. And then you guys can let me know your thoughts as well in the comments. But it all started with kind of a hiss and a roar. It was intense stuff when all the talk before this game was, it's going to be boring, it's going to be all kicking, there's not going to be any intensity to the match in terms of well, it's not going to be an expansive play anyway. Not the way the game started. It was all over the place, to be fair. Guys getting the ball wide. 46 seconds, South Africa actually won a breakdown penalty, and Pollard missed the first kick, so this was not going according to the script. Very important, I guess, very disappointing moment of the match is the fact that Kyle Sinclair went off before even 3 minutes were on the clock. He had a collision with Maro Itoje's, I think, forearm. They only showed the replay twice on the one I was watching. But he was out cold, unconscious, lying on the ground. They had to stop play because he was just out like a light. And you do not want a prop to be going out like that. I mean, you don't want anybody to go out like that, but that meant Dan Cole had to play virtually 80 minutes, which was never going to be an ideal situation for Sinclair. He's been so good all tournament, but he was out cold. There was no way he was coming back on after he was just knocked out like that. So, it's not really what you want to see happen to any player. Fortunately, he was fine. He got up. He was able to kind of groggily walk off the pitch at the end, but that was certainly a very bad start. And if you consider the fact that Dan Cole ended up conceding 4 penalties, it's not ideal for England for sure. It was probably one of the key moments of the game, really, which is it's just one of those things. Sometimes it happens. The scrum for South Africa resulting from that, eventually they had one once Sinclair was taken off the field. They got advantage, they attacked from it. They got to within about the 5 metre line from England, but they were eventually turned over, so the English defence held. Pollard was trying his up and under, and he managed to collect it at one point, so he was looking dangerous, and I'll get to his stats at the end, which were pretty impressive. Itoje at one point, he was making his presence felt at the breakdown for sure, but not before South Africa could win. Get the first points on the board. It was a breakdown penalty again, so they kicked that, made it 3-0, it was right out in front. Itoje, he was kind of denied a turnover at the breakdown with Etzebeth. I feel like probably should have let the ball go. Itoje maybe had him. It was kind of one of those moments where it's like, some of the decisions are going South Africa's way rather than England's way. If you're an England fan at that point, you would have been getting a wee bit frustrated. I think as an All Blacks fan, I think pretty neutral on this one. Having only seen the game once, that's the way I kind of saw it at that point. But over the course of the game, before I get anywhere else, South Africa were going to win this game no matter what, based on what happened for the rest of the game. But anyway, there was another scrum penalty on 17 minutes. South Africa went to kick it out, but Johnny May did a really good job to keep it in the field of play. And eventually, Mbonambi gets a knee to the head. Ludiaka goes off, or at least he's limping. So the injuries kind of seem to be evening out as well. And England kicked the penalty to make it 3-3. South Africa, 25 minutes, get a penalty from a scrum. It's 6-3. England, man, did they go through the longest advantage I think I've seen in a very long time. They got advantage. They must have gone 20-plus phases. The stream, the broadcast I was watching, stopped at 6, but it would have been 20-plus. I don't know. Eventually they can't score from it, but they do go back for the penalty to make it 6 apiece. So it's trading penalties as the kind of predictions were about this game. 38 minutes, Pollard gets a penalty, makes it 9-6. And then England on 40, just before halftime, 39 minutes, 40 minutes, they knock on. South Africa get a scrum. They get a penalty from that scrum, and it's 12 points to 6. The scrum, you can't underestimate how important that was to South Africa during this game. They were able to get territory, possession, points, all from having a dominant scrum. Half-time, it's 12 points to 6. Run meters are England 77, South Africa 190. So, people were saying they're going to play boring, they're going to just box kick all day. They were certainly getting some run meters. They had a bit less possession with 42 and a bit less territory, but on the board they were doing the business. Both sides defensively were in the 90s at half-time in terms of their percentage, but England had to make a lot less tackles, 44 to South Africa 79. So South Africa's defence, again, alongside their scrum, I think are the two kind of key areas where South Africa got this win. Their defence was just making England very uncomfortable, causing mistakes and just shutting everything down. So with a scrum that's on top, it's a good recipe for success. Penalties conceded was 6-4 at half-time, with England with 6. Knock-ons was 4 apiece. Clean breaks, South Africa 3, England 1. So again, defensively, both sides mostly holding up. Second half, the South Africans changed both their props after like 3 minutes into the second half. Kind of wondering, is that going to make a difference to the scrum? Is that going to ease up on the pressure? But it's Vincent Koch and Stephen Kitsoff coming on, so there's no difference. They immediately come on and win a scrum penalty. That makes it 15 points to 6, and beyond a try, South Africa at that point looking very comfortable. Again, another moment with South Africa, I thought maybe a little bit lucky. There was one scrum where Kitsoff seemed to go down, kind of Joe Moody style, in that South Africa-New Zealand game early on in the World Cup, where his elbow seemed to hit the ground and he pushed himself back up. But South Africa still got that scrum penalty. But eventually, England did actually manage to win one scrum penalty on 50 minutes, and they kicked the penalty from it to make it 9 points to 15. Important for them to get back into touching distance. And then 53 minutes, Curry gets a breakdown penalty, and then Farrell misses that kick. So both of these kickers, who are pretty renowned for having kind of radar accurate boots, not 100% on the night. 56 minutes, South Africa do some kind of set play maul. That was obviously a set move they planned in long in advance. They managed to win a penalty for it for offside. It's 18 points to 9. Again, they're starting to look comfortable, but England not to be undone. They get a penalty straight from the restart, and it's 12 points to 18. That's where the points scoring stopped for England. So they weren't, as South Africa were just threatening to pull away, they were able to keep in touch, but for the last 20 minutes, it's South Africa. 62 minutes, the AR spots a shove by Anthony Watson on Mapimpi to, hinder him. So it was a silly thing to do. Unnecessary penalty to be given away. Pollard takes a really long shot, almost 60 meters, but he doesn't get it. But then 66 minutes, finally, the game opens up with a try. It's Mapimpi. He's down the wing. He chips and chases. Lucanio Arm collects the ball. Quick pass to Mapimpi, and Mapimpi goes over for the try. The TMO checks it. There's no clear and obvious forward pass. I thought it was all good. Just looking at it from mine, backwards out of the hands is what you're looking for, and backwards out of the hands it was, at least from the angle I saw. So nothing to be stopping that one. And it's 25 points to 12. The fat lady is starting to warm up at that point with 18 minutes to go, but you can't write that England team off. Team full of champions in their own right, domestically and whatnot. But it just keeps being South Africa. 73 minutes, Colby gets a try. It's a loose carry from Slade, and at that point England are really chasing the game. Colby goes through Farrell, and it's a great run from him to score the try, and it's 32 points to 12. At that point, it is game over. That's the nail in the coffin. So Pollard does take a drop goal shot at 77 minutes, but it goes wide pretty badly. But 2 tries, first tries for South Africa in Rugby World Cup. So it's a very convincing scoreline in the end. That final 20 minutes really was exquisite stuff from them. England, as I said, keeping in touch, but not able to do so over the course of the game. Definitely not helped by the fact that Sinclair went off so early, as I said. But South Africa just too good. Final stats: 380 run meters to 173 in South Africa's favour. Kind of reflects on here as well. England slightly more possession, but and territory too. But again, it's not the deciding factor by any means. South Africa's tackling and England's were actually pretty good, but Obviously, England let it go a bit towards the end. 89% for England, which again, by most standards, is really good. But South Africa, 92%. Almost unheard of to go into the 90s, but they did it in a World Cup final, so what a time to be doing that. 154 tackles they made to England's 98, so the defence had to do its job, and it did. Penalties conceded was 10 to England, 8 to South Africa, so fairly even. A lot of those to England were at scrum time. Knock-ons, 9 to England, 5 to South Africa. Probably a bit of that was England starting to chase the game at the end as well. Clean breaks, England had 2 in the whole game. South Africa had 7. So again, that's probably one of the key factors that showed just how solid South Africa's defence was, and that their attack was able to eventually, penetrate a couple of times. But yeah, I really think if you're a South African fan, you look at your scrum, that's what won you a World Cup. You look at your defence, that's what won you a World Cup. And a couple of moments of magic from these guys, both your wingers, really helped to win you a World Cup. So, yeah, I mean, the best run meter performance from England was Johnny May with 37, which is not a huge number. Pollard was the best South African with 72. So, and he was running the ball today, which is kind of what we like to see as well. And in all the build-up, and partly from Rassie as well, saying like, we're going to play conservative. They don't have to play just conservative, the South Africans. Colby had 5 defenders beaten. As I said, Dan Cole conceded 4 penalties, which was unfortunate, but he came on a lot earlier than expected. Vermeulen got man of the match. He had 44 run meters, or 49, and 7 out of 8 tackles. He was everywhere. Etoje had 16 out of 17 tackles, which is phenomenal as well. Mostert, 16 out of 16 for his team. Loads of the guy. I think the most tackles missed by any South African player was 2. So, yeah, again, just across the board, a real team effort to win a World Cup. So, best congratulations to South Africa, the South African fans, the team, the coaching staff. They have come such a long way in the last couple of years. It was only a few years ago when New Zealand were dealing to them at the Rugby Championship, but they have gone on to win a World Cup in a really convincing way over a really strong England side. And remember, England had quite the run to this World Cup final. They were tested throughout and just came up trumps every time. This is the one game that perhaps let them down a bit, but yeah, still, they can hold their heads high. They got to the final. Just on this one, it wasn't to be. So there'll be a lot of talk about that All Blacks game, but at the end of the day, couldn't quite replicate that against the Springboks. So yeah, time for me to go to bed. It is almost 12:30 in the morning here. I've just seen Sio Khaleesi lift the trophy in the background. So. Great stuff, inspirational captain. I can't wait to see his kind of post-match comments as well. If you are looking for a Springboks jersey, England Rugby Store has still got some for sale. I'll put the link in the description. Use the code 2cents10 for 10% off on that one. My daughter is crying. It is time for me to go. World Cup 2019 is done. It has been a pleasure, guys. Thank you to everyone who's been along for the ride. Patreon supporters especially as well. Thank you for your kind assistance. But all the new subscribers, I know there's a fair few new guys along for this one too. All you guys who watch, like, subscribe, Patreon, all that jazz, all very helpful. But yeah, congratulations South Africa. Deserved winners on the night. Some magic moments, great defense, great scrum, and yeah, I'm going to go. I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.